Hello, it's Kimberly and Miranda with Tipsy Mystics. We are not expecting a gigantic crowd tonight, at least at first, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. But it's election night 2020. And as I said on my blog, it is a primary event for us, the beginning of one.
What is a primary event? Can you explain
A primary
your
event,
definition of that?
A primary event is a burst of energy where it basically connects all of consciousness together in all across all the levels and all the dimensions. It's sort of like this gigantic tsunami of energy that ripples out everywhere. And it's one of those things that consciousness never forgets. It binds us all together. So if you imagine holding a bunch of flowers in your hands, you've got the stems coming out the bottom, you've got your hand grasping, and then you've got the flowers coming out of the top. So that hand grasping is holding all those stems together like timelines. And then they diverge again after the primary event, completely changed by that mutual experience in the event. Yeah. So that is what we are going through tonight. It is gigantic energetically. So, of course, we're both drinking.
Of course.
What are you drinking, Miranda?
I have some boozy berry bucha.
And a lot of alliteration as well.
Yes. I love alliteration. I don't know if y'all have picked up on that yet, but I do. I love a rhyme. I love alliteration.
You love a thesaurus?
Love a thesaurus. You know that already.
Well, I decided to drink today, although I have no idea what's going on in the polls. I voted long ago, and I put it in the little vote box. Oh, I got someone coming in. We got some non-physical activity who wants to speak here tonight. I'm
cool.
Finding out. I'm like, you better do it before I keep drinking, because that'll, make it a little more difficult. But I still have a little, like an inch of Grey Goose left in that gigantic bottle that you get at Costco, the one that's like 3 feet tall and you can barely fit it in your refrigerator. So there's like an inch left. So I decided to add that to some blood orange Pellegrino. And that's where we are. So we're not going to spend the first 10 minutes probably talking about food today because it's such a big event. And I've been told by my...
Don't worry, next week it'll be back.
So I've been told by my team that this recording tonight is being recorded for quite a bit of time in the future. And so if I can barely talk, so when I start coughing like this, that's someone wanting to come through. So if you're here listening, you are listening early, and this broadcast is going to come back around based on something we say or some shit we predict or something that's going to happen that I don't know what it is, but that's our MO for tonight. So Miranda, what about voting? You went and voted today.
I went and voted today. Everything was super chill. It was extra chill because it was very cold and windy. So I was very cold and I forgot to wear gloves. You know, they tell you like, this is how you send in a mail-in ballot. This is how you do this. There's messages coming at you from all over the place. Did anyone say, hey, remember to wear your gloves? You're going to be standing outside for over an hour in the cold? Not one message. No one cared about me. They only cared about them getting their votes for their candidate. No one cared about Miranda's fingers.
Little cold fingers.
I almost couldn't even like fill in the bubble. My hand was so cold.
Wow, that's why you drop it in the little vote box.
Well, you know what? I live in Pennsylvania in the Philadelphia area. We're I mean, we're one of the most important states, so I wanted to make sure that my vote was counted. And today,
fine.
so I went and I stood in line and I drank my coffee, and everyone was like incredibly pleasant. Oh, the one very strange thing that did happen was I'm a W. My last name starts with a W, but the polling place I was at, has one book for A through K and one book for those who have the last names L through Z. And right when I got there was roughly like 40 people in line, in my line, in the L through Z line, and 2 people in line for the A through K. And it remained that way the entire time I was there. Every now and then you'd get 1, maybe 2 A through Kers, and the rest of us just were standing outside in the cold.
Well, I'm a D, so I would have not been in that line too. Because we all probably stayed home with our warm hands and filled out the mail-in ballot and at least dropped it in the box. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. I did go one time to the polls, like the old-fashioned way where you use a little pointy thing. Did you use a little pointy thing?
No, so they did change it. So we used to have, we would press buttons. You go into a little booth and you press buttons. But this year they changed it and you had to fill out, you had like a big paper and you filled it out and then you fed it into like a giant Scantron thing, which looked like a garbage can. I was like, where is this
shredder?
A machine they keep talking about.
To a shredder.
And it looked, yeah, so it looked like a giant shredder garbage. Yeah, put it right here.
Okay, so what are you creating there? Because that sounds exactly like the mail-in ballot that I did. Like maybe they just said, fuck it. Whether they show up or whether they do it at home in their living room, we're giving them the same ballot. And then maybe they shred yours and mine make it through, or
I don't know.
They shred mine too.
Trump's watching Pennsylvania, he said. He's watching us.
Like, what do you like this?
Closely.
I'm watching you.
He says bad things happen in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's a way to get votes.
Right?
You Philadelphians, we don't trust you at all. So I'm watching you.
Yeah, and he said Pennsylvania is watching. I mean, it's a big swing state, and we got a lot of electoral college votes. So it's people are watching us. So I got out there, got my vote in.
With cold hands and all.
With cold hands and all. Waited for my long line. But the vibe, everyone was like really positive, and we were all just standing out there chatting with each other. And
so that's a very nice timeline that you chose to be on.
Yeah.
Now we could talk about other people who are maybe not on such a joyous timeline. And what their attitudes might be while they're standing in that line, or what they're expecting, or what they're thinking is going to happen. There's so many people that are kind of afraid of the unknown right now.
Of course.
And
I mean, expectations are really ruling the day, I think, right now, right? Everything is projections. Like we were just talking. I did go online before we came and took a little look, but everything's a projection. It's going to take days to get all these votes counted. So everyone's just afraid of literally a projection. Everything is not a now moment that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really illustrative of how much fear that we create from our ego's need to make up a future.
Oh my gosh. And the future, Earth is kind of in for a little bit of a reckoning that way when they find out that there is no future, and that, your politicians that you pick are based on you taking personal accountability. A, for getting out there and voting. B, for running for office if you think that you could do something differently, right, without feeling like you're going to get shot down historically. Right? The good guys always lose and that sort of thing. So this being a primary event like that, it really is quite cool to see, like you saw the vibe in line. People are like, all right, we're done with that other stuff. I put a blog article up today that said, fighting is going out of style on Earth. It's totally going out. It's so last timeline, right? And the fact that we don't have to expect the same thing that we've always had happening to us over and over and over again lets those people, and Miranda with the cold hands, be chill in line, right?
Yeah. Well, I will say, had a little chat with the team before this, and that was one thing that they were admonishing me for some other things in the kindest way possible. But the one thing that they did say was like, Miranda, you are not the same person. You do not hold the same energy. You do not hold the same frequency as you did back in March at the beginning of the year. You are absolutely a totally different being, and you're vibrating at a different frequency. So none of the things that happened to you in your past, none of those experiences can happen to you now. None of people's reactions to you or perceptions of you, it's not possible because you're not holding that frequency, so you can't have that same experience anymore. So, which was nice to hear, even when you're kind of getting like a little bit told off.
Oh, well,
your higher self. But you need it sometimes. They would never do, mine are very nice. They would only ever do it if I needed to get my ass off of the ground and like start making some changes. But but that was one of the things that they said. We're totally different. I mean, obviously we're going first, so maybe we're a little bit higher, but so is everyone else. They're all in a different position than they were back in March. So who knows what's going to happen? Yeah.
Well, you were just talking about your guides and getting admonished. And I want to tell a quick story about a test that I had to go through that my guides said, you're going to take a test, right? Of course, they tell you that like when you sit down at the Starbucks where you're comfortable and you're like, okay, I finally have a minute. And they're like, no, you don't. We're going to test you right now. And so I'm sitting out in front of this Starbucks on Santa Monica Boulevard, which I live in the area where anything goes. Men in thongs, women in thongs, dogs in thongs. I mean, everything, every color of person, every size of person, everything. So it's a beautiful place to sit because you can sit there and practice non-judgment, right? Mm-hmm. So here's me, and I'm getting presented with all sorts of things I could judge, right? All the things that would piss me off in my past, anything that would bring up a bad memory of maybe some old boyfriend that did something, everything came up to me, right? You get the giant man and the anorexic woman and all of the things, the cars that zip by through stop signs, all that.
Wow.
I'm doing well, right? I'm like, I got it. Nope, not getting me. I see who you're sending me. Nope. Love him for what he is, right?
Carnival freak show you got going on.
It was like a little circus going on parade past me, right? Now, I'm doing this and I'm like, yeah, I am acing this test. I'm like, you can't get me. It's about done, right? We're about done. It's been like 20 people that I haven't judged, right? Just as soon as I say that, they send it to me. The one thing that gets me every goddamn time. All right? It's a lady in sunglasses. It's almost nighttime. And she's pushing a carriage, but the carriage has one of those little yappy dogs in it.
Okay, in a thong.
She's pushing a carriage. She doesn't need to be in a thong.
No, dog. You said dog.
Why? Okay, the dog in a thong. But why are dogs in carriages? And that's always been my question. It's going to be my question until the last day on Earth, 100 and something years from now. Why are dogs in carriages? Right?
Well, the dogs that exist, those little yappy dogs, are not built for walks.
I was like, I
not
got
built
this.
for walks.
They're not. I know they've got like 3-inch legs, and it's hard to keep up. I get that, but I don't understand how someone can lavish that much. The dog doesn't like it. I can tell by the dog. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This person that walked by with her little carriage was a guide. And she looked at me through her sunglasses, and she had this grin because I failed so badly. I judged her for every single mini second that she walked past me. It was all 100% judgment. I failed like nosedive. So when you start to recognize, you're going to have a test because you want to I'm using this in quotes, improve yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself that you can be. You're going to give yourself tests and you can have fun with it, right? And then when you raise yourself up a little bit, where you recognize that the people that are helping test you are also your friends, and then you have that extra layer of communication on top of it that makes it like extra fun. So I failed miserably.
Yeah, but that whole, what you're just saying about you realize that's your guide or that's your friend or whatever, it just really illustrates that, like, you're just creating this costume for them. Whatever costume you need them to be wearing to get whatever reaction that you need, to get that, have the expectations of your ego met, right? Who is this person? I know who they are. We have yappy dogs. Dog doesn't walk.
I made a judgment. And Theo, I see you said littering. I'm thinking that maybe you were talking about something that is a big test for many of us, right?
Oh, watching people litter?
Watching people litter.
Just seeing it on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, but I've had people look at me and throw things on the ground. Like,
or not pick up your dog poop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, there's littering right there.
Like, literally next to the little stand where they have the baggies.
Right. And the trash can right above it.
And the trash can.
Yeah, there's no reason. But, yeah, they'll do it, and that's you testing you. And, yeah, and then sometimes they'll see, like, they'll clean up the dog stuff, but they won't throw it in a trash can. They'll just drop the bag. Oh, and the bag will be, like, pink or purple or something, so it's really obvious to you as you're walking down the street.
Annoying.
Anyway.
Sometimes it's easier to love the bigger stuff, right? Because you don't really see it in front of your face in every now moment. And this little stuff, like, the woman that you saw, you're like, I'm acing this. And then, like, the silliest thing just ridiculous thing, like, sets you off.
And I walked home stomping my feet. I'm like, God damn it. So, the guides are much nicer about it. They're like, yeah, okay, we had fun. It was good. You recognized your lessons in this. You recognized where you could improve your lack of judgment next time. But don't beat yourself up. So, of course, what do?
Beat yourself up.
Beat myself up.
Immediately.
Yeah. Well, one more thing about the elections that I was going to talk about was I sent you an article that someone had sent me about a domain name. Now, as you know, I'm in we're in domain name business, and there was an article about, I didn't see is it a debate, right, where Pence had a housefly land on his head.
Yeah, the vice presidential debate.
Okay, the vice presidential debate. So he had a housefly land on his head, and the fly stayed there for a number of minutes, right?
Yeah. Star on social media.
Right.
Immediate fame.
Immediate famous fly. You know how much Miranda loves flies. Sorry, that's the vodka working already. It's been a while.
Maybe I put it there.
You got rid of it in your house and you put it on Pence's head.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, the social media blows up with this domain called flywillvote.com. Right? And Biden even tweeted it, like he retweeted it. And so it went all over the place, flywillvote.com. And someone in the article that I sent you pointed out that the domain was purchased before the fly incident.
Yeah, like an hour before, not days before.
Right, like an hour before the fly incident. So here we have an example. Now, I haven't checked it out myself. You might want to, but here we have an example of timeline jumping. Basically, things happening out of order. Someone who is planting. I like the word planting because planting and seeds, grow together. But who is planting some information to see who is aware, who is asking questions about these things. And as soon as you do, and it becomes part of your belief system, like, okay, I recognize that things are happening out of order. That's when things really start happening out of order. Right? So recognizing that synchronicity.
Yes. Like the time that they were like showing me little by little that cause and effect are not linear. It's just silly little things.
Well,
over and over again.
So, speaking of linear, I want to talk about daylight savings time, which here in California, I don't know if it starts or ends in the fall. I can't remember. I lived in Arizona for so long. It was the only normal state, along with Hawaii, that didn't bother with that stuff. But
I believe it ends. I believe we're on standard time now.
So we're like, this is the way it was supposed to be, right?
What do you mean?
Like normally, before they messed it up so you could go harvest potatoes.
Yeah.
I mean, here we go back to the damn Industrial Revolution again. But so anyway, not that it went back that far. I get it. We don't need to introduce any more anachronisms into this show. But daylight savings time ended on Saturday night. And I get up very early and go for a walk in the morning. So when I leave the house, it's dark. And I expected that an hour later, there would be at least some inkling of dawn, right? If I'm leaving an hour later after daylight savings time ends, it should be lighter outside. So I go out on Sunday morning. It's just as damn dark as it always was. And I'm like, okay, I'm either crazy or something's going on time-wise, linear time-wise. And I went through my normal walk and it was exactly the same as it had always been. The next day, which was yesterday, I did it again. And it was just a tiny, and when I mean tiny, I mean 20 minutes difference. So I moved myself up 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes later. And today, another 20 minutes. So I'm like, all right, I need to talk to my non-physical friends and find out what the hell was that? And they explained that when you're on your timeline and you're recognizing you're creating your reality, you can choose to see dark or light. It's completely your choice. Right? It's your preference. Just like you're creating your body that people see, you're also creating the weather, the lightness and the darkness, and the rest of your environment. And so what I got to see was I really kind of loved walking in the dark, and I was kind of going to miss it. And I was like, shit, man. I can't leave the house at 4:30 in the morning just to stay in the dark. So
your little creepy heart. Just loved it.
I just love the dark. It's quiet. There's no cars zipping by. There's bats. I mean, who doesn't love a bat? I love a bat. Excuse me. She's raising her hand. I love bats. So I love the dark. And so what I got to see was because I love the dark, I can extend the darkness. And that goes on across all levels too. It can be right. It can we're talking darkness in many ways, right? So over the past 2 days, I decided that it would be really silly for me to remain that far detached from the rest of humanity. So now I'm adjusting a little bit, but
welcome back.
Thank you. But it was really neat to see that, and I had to ask this question to the guides. If I'm seeing dark, does everyone else see dark? Do they see light? Right? And they're like, they see what they want to see. So one way you can tell is by their behavior, right? So one would think an hour later, more people might be out walking, more cars might be on their way to work, whatever, right? There could be just different behavior. And so, for instance, the car lights might be off by then. Mm-hmm. So if I were in my little dark world and I saw all these cars driving by,
without their lights
on, that might be an indication to me that I've got one foot in each timeline, right? So all these little things that we just walked around the street and never noticed are there for us to use as building blocks, like we said before. It was kind of a cool experience.
I mean, the whole concept of daylight savings time is just someone deciding it's a different time. Mm-hmm. And they had to collectively get everyone on board.
Which was apparently easy because no one fought it. Wait, who? I mean, did someone?
No, that's not true.
Were there
that's
signs?
Not true at all. That's not
really?
True at all. So, well, I don't know if you are aware, but back in, I think it was 2007, beginning of 2007, George Bush or his administration decided that we were going to change it to a week back. Now, I know this because I worked at a clock company at the time. So it was an actual...
Just a coincidence.
It was an actual freaking disaster for us because we have these master clocks in like schools and hospitals that have every daylight savings time automatically programmed into it for the next millennia. So now, all of a sudden, all of our master clocks are going to be wrong come the next year. So I had to like reach out to literally anyone who had ever bought one of these and sell them like a fix for it, which was not easy. So total disaster. So that was back in 2006.
What's the likelihood of that? I mean, of you being the person that has to make massive changes based on the collective changing time.
Right? Yeah. So I know when the date is because... So anyway, but
so
before then, but there, I went with it. Other people fought it because I just sell them something, they want to buy it. But before then, a bunch of states didn't do it. And some states, like in Indiana, I think it was like a couple of Indiana counties refused to do it. So yes, people fought it. I think Hawaii didn't do it. I don't know if you recall that. I don't know how long you lived there.
Hawaii still doesn't. Yes, Hawaii still doesn't do it.
So there's some states, but the fact that there are like certain counties in certain states, I think after the 2007 debacle, it was a debacle for me. For everyone else, it was probably irrelevant. But I think some of the other counties in Indiana decided to change. But it was just really funny, like just all of a sudden your neighbor down the street, if you live in the county next door, isn't on the same time zone as you.
Oh, wow. But, I mean, it's all a collective agreement was what I meant to say.
And even time zones, it's insane. Like, I remember driving from, I think it was like Kentucky to Tennessee or something, and they're in different time zones. But I literally drove 30 minutes. I was on a sales call, and then I drove back, and I was like... That's so weird. It's a different time now.
But the thing is that we all believe it. Like it's a root assumption that we agree to, and I mean we could be the one rebel. Like I'm going to show up at 9 instead of 8 because I'm not following daylight savings time.
Exactly, and some mayor in Indiana. At some point was like, we're voting. Like, let's go against the whole system.
Thank you.
We're not doing that.
Damn it. Thank you. Okay. Well, I want to talk about one more thing. I'm just taking over this show. I'm sorry because and I are. Yeah, we were both dealing with some energy today. So before I go into that next subject, we will talk about what Lightworkers could be feeling right around now with this A, primary event that's going on, B, a lot of fear flying around, right? I did mention that I heard from my team that there's a lot of people needing sleep, a lot of sleep. And I know you have been doing that.
Well, I've been exhausted. They don't let me sleep. I'm just too exhausted to do anything, and then I lay in bed, and then I'm just awake. But
so that's your maybe your
sleep.
theta brainwave state where you're just not doing.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not doing. And that was one of the things I got yelled at for.
Was not doing?
Yes.
Wait, I want to hear this. This sounds like more fun than what I was going to say. Would you get
it's
yelled
not
at
fun
for?
Getting yelled at for.
You get yelled at. I mean, that's a human perception.
Yeah,
right?
Yes, it's not yelling it. And my team is never, they're like the chillest. They're like, sure, whatever.
We just get bitchy because we're like, shit, I did it wrong.
They're like, well, you want all of this change, but you're not doing anything to change. So you need to start doing more. Like
in the physical.
In the physical, yes. They're like, you're not, things are changing. Again, this was where you have changed thing came in, and it was like you had to change your schedule and the things that you did every day back when quarantine started. We needed you to change then, right? You needed to like not have your schedule. That was important. They're like, but now things are changing again. And we need you to like have a schedule. You need to like start doing stuff again. Like you did the being, you took care of it, but now you're just stuck in this habit of like not doing anything. And then you're getting upset that like things aren't changing because you haven't like actually done anything to like change and figure out a new way of being or a new thing to do. And they're like, and a lot of stuff's going to start happening. So you might as well start now because you're going to get swept up in it. If you don't start like feel like you're taking control of it.
Did they give you any hints about stuff that's going to happen?
I mean, just in my own life, it's like in like 2 weeks, I'll know about my house. I'll have to start making decisions. I'll really have to like start picking up the packing and the moving and then making decisions about what's going on in the house. Like just in my personal life, they were like, that's coming.
Yeah. And
like,
now you're getting all this quiet time to be doing it, and now you're sleeping.
I know.
Or not sleeping.
Or not sleeping. But they're like, you still have to like start creating that schedule and start creating those new habits of things that maybe weren't from before and maybe weren't from the past few months during quarantine, but like are for your new life because
change is imminent and it really does suck sometimes. And I want to bring this up and I'm going to send it out to the damn ethers, to all the non-physicals that are listening to us. You know what?
They are.
I know they are. The lights will probably dim or something like that. That's typical. But it's not quite that easy when you're in the physical because kind of emotions, they kind of sweep you away sometimes. Like, and all of a sudden, you're folding clothes and then you're bawling over something that did or didn't happen on this timeline. It doesn't really matter at this point, right? You're just
coming up.
It's just coming up and you're just like, and all of a sudden, and with the whole body thing and the 5 senses thing and the broken heart thing, I mean, humans are pretty badass to have chosen to do this.
Absolutely.
We don't just mess around like, let's go on vacation on Earth.
No. But, I asked, why do I feel stuck? And they're like, well, because you're not doing anything to get unstuck. But they, of course, are always like, but that makes sense. This is hard. They were like, you are exhausted. And I, like, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, you are exhausted. And we have, like, another hurdle for you to go over in the next...
Oh, by the way...
in the next few months, and on some level that it's coming. So like in your exhausted state, you're like, no, no to this.
Talk about this guy.
No to whatever this is.
They're telling you of a giant hurdle, but they're also telling you don't rest up. Now you got to start doing shit because you're coming to a hurdle.
Well,
so which one is it?
I guess when you think of like, I've never jumped hurdles, but you do have to get some momentum, right?
Yeah.
You don't just stand right in front of it and jump. You got to start running, which is essentially what they're saying. Like, you got to start doing stuff. You got to start like creating these new sort of schedules and habits and stuff.
Yeah.
And it'll make things a lot easier when you get there. But
yeah.
We got something else big coming, and we're exhausted. We all are.
Yeah.
We all are, especially especially the light workers. But it's literally everybody. We're just so exhausted over the past few months of all the first of all the physical, like the energy, the physical changes that have happened to us, and then just all the healing and the changing and the removing limits and crap. Ugh.
Oh my God, removing limits. Ugh. It's like every day I'm like, I didn't even know that one was there. Shit. And it's, oh, really, that's another limitation, and that one and this one, and oh God. But I can say it is getting easier to recognize them, right? Where you're like, oh, damn, I've been living with that for 55 years. I guess or 10,000 years. I don't know. It's my 867th life, so who knows?
Who knows?
But I mean, it's a point of so many unknowns and so much on this planet that is new. It's all new. It's not been done before on these timelines. Even when you're talking about the primary event, this has never been done before. And I've been told that over and over, and I'm sure you have by your team, that we don't know what's going to happen. We're sitting here literally eating our popcorn on the stands watching you.
I know.
On the edge of our seats.
I don't know if I said it last week. I think I did. But they were like, oh, sorry.
We overshot your energy.
Yeah, we miscalculated. We screwed up a little bit. Sorry. We never done this before. Whoopsies. Whoopsie daisies.
Well, why don't you ask for another mug full of energy while you're exhausted? Send it, people. Here's the time now.
Well, I asked them about it, and they're like, it's up to you. You're the one keeping yourself tired. You're the one keeping yourself here because you're not. You're stuck, and your ego likes to be stuck here because it's safe.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I did notice that once we started with this lockdown back in March, that my habits completely changed for the better. I don't, and I'm not, honestly, the human part of me isn't taking all that much credit because it kind of just happened like
good.
A little whisper in the ear, because I used to work out at night, and it's really easy to not work out at night, right? Where you're like, I'm tired, or I just ate. There's always an excuse. So this little whisper in my ear, why don't you work out in the morning? I'm like, oh God, I got to get up. And here's your habit thing. They're like, just try it for 3 days straight and see what happens. So day 1, go do my exercise. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, holy shit, I feel great, right? Now, maybe it would take someone more than that or less than that. I don't know. But basically, it was just, I slid in to these new habits.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like because I was already basically on lockdown, I mean, I work at home anyway and always have for quite a while, that it was my chance to go to the next level. Everyone else was settling into being able to work at home and be alone, right? Which I'm very good at. Me, I got to do those physical things that made my physical avatar body better, more healthy, more aligned with my purpose and stuff like that. So I want to say something. Theo has a question for you. Okay.
Yeah, so what is my take on the differences between tropical, sidereal, and 13 sign astrology? So I mean, I'm not gonna like yuck someone's yum, so to speak, right?
What the hell does that mean?
Oh, you don't know? That's like a popular
never
thing.
heard that. Okay.
Oh, no?
no.
Like if someone put something on, Instagram, they're like, oh, look at this food. And someone's like, ew, that looks gross.
Oh,
like, that's
okay,
just
I get
rude.
it.
Don't do it. So I'm not going to yuck someone's yum. Like, if you get something out of different types of astrology and the archetypes, then, good for you. You're getting something out of it. It's exactly, they're very different. And if you're at a different level, you're going to be able to relate to a different concept and a different sort of structure of these archetypes. I don't think that there's a lot of logic and as much organization with some of the older types of astrology than with the one that I studied. I mean, I studied psychological astrology because it's what resonated with me and it's what I needed at that time.
What is psychological astrology? Because I've never heard of that in my life.
Oh, so, I mean, that's what I studied. So, I mean, it's really...
Call me spiritual, not.
Yeah, so it's really taking the psychological learning that we've done as humans and aligning it with astrology. My professor literally teaches how, like, the Aries, Mars, and the first house are, like, the first 2 years of life. So those are all related. So any of those archetypes, you're going to be able to relate those to not only what a child learns and how they grow in the first 2 years of their life, but Mars is a planet and the needs of Aries. So they're all the same. So it really takes everything and puts it into 12 buckets. And so then you can take those 12 buckets of archetypes and it makes it really kind of easy to see what's going on in somebody's life. Right?
Okay,
it's just
I'm never ever going to use the word astrology and easy in the same sentence because none of it is easy to me. No, it's completely confusing to me.
It is. But the thing with some of these older astrologies like sidereal, sidereal is the astrology that was based on the constellations and not based on the seasons, which is what the tropical zodiac is based on. And that only existed until they realized after a few thousand years, oh shit, the constellations are not in the same place every year anymore.
We've been doing this wrong the whole time.
Because the planet is on an ecliptic. It's not a perfect... The Earth does not move on a perfect circle around the sun. So as soon as they realized, oh shit, we were wrong... then they changed to the tropical zodiac. So, like, why would you... Like, for me, I'm a relatively logical person. Why would I want to base my learning in 2020 on something that has been debunked, back then? But,
well, what happens when the seasons are debunked? Because, I mean, that's just Earth, right?
So, what I've understood is that astrology is going to be changing, right? So astrology today, including psychological astrology, is really based on where the human collective is at this moment, right? All we really know are the planets that we can see, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a ton of them we can't see.
Yeah, so...
the Pleiades has 9 stars, and we only see 7. There's 2 that just don't even get any credit.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
And like your chart is literally from your perspective standing on Earth, right? It's the perspective of a human being on Earth right now at the moment you were born, in one now moment. That's exactly what astrology is. So if our perspective of me, Miranda, in this now moment standing on the planet changes drastically, then obviously astrology has to change as well. I don't know what it's going to look like in the future, but I think it's going to continuously evolve as humans do. So, I don't know. My opinion is I like what I've learned. And I think it's really simple, and it made it really easy for me to like put literally everything into 12 buckets and then make them into like little astrological Mad Libs.
And you're offering readings now, is that right?
I mean, sure.
Go
to. I mean, I want to do some free readings for people. So if anyone's interested, go to astro.bar, fill in the little contact form, and I'll set up a free reading.
Astro.bar. I'm going to type it in here. And I know because we're domain people, yes, that's an actual domain. All right? That's an actual domain, astro.bar. So if you want a free reading, Miranda can give it to you. Have you given me a free reading?
No.
You just answer shit when I ask you because you already have my chart. I know you have my chart like right there to like on PDF to open up at all times.
Yeah. But if you want to just chat about something specific, I'm not the type of astrologer who's going to be like, oh, well, this is who you are. I don't tell people who they are.
Well, because who you are changes in every moment.
Exactly. So the chart, as I see it, is their archetypes, and it could manifest in so many different ways, especially based on, duality and how healed you are and how integrated you are in that aspect.
So what about this? Like, weren't they going to add another astrological sign? I was hearing that like they were going to add another one.
Who is they?
That's right, exactly. And like,
do
we get to vote? Do we get to vote on it? Because
no. So the astrological community, they're just asking about a few different kinds of astrology. It's so varied, so diverse, and they all just argue with each other. It's insane.
Oh, well, that's loving.
Yeah.
Talk about service to humanity.
They really
just bicker amongst each other.
They all just write incredibly long articles, like defending their own opinions. And it's like, well, where does that get anyone? So who is they? You get to use whatever system that resonates with you. And if that's where you are in your life, that is helpful, then it does. Like, just use your discernment like you need with everything else. If you're listening to an astrologer who's trying to tell you who you are and what your chart says, like, that's not going to be me.
But see, I've had those charts done in my past, and I remember getting the results back, right? And
sure,
I remember seeing like some stuff is like, you are vindictive and vengeful, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not vindictive and vengeful at all.
Because they're like making assumptions.
Well, because I'm a Scorpio, so they're reading the database of what a Scorpio is supposed to look like or be or act or whatever, and they're just plopping it in this chart for me. And I could read something and be like, okay, that resonates with me, and I'll read the next line. I'm like, that's so not me. No, I don't. I'm not. I don't sleep with a knife under my pillow. I don't do that.
So, yeah, well, but we live in duality, and people are just waking up to that. So, I mean, the astrology that I learned understands that we live in duality, so that each sign, like Scorpio, yes, it represents fear, but it also represents empowerment and healing.
Damn it, yes, thank you.
So, it depends where you are in your journey, and your learning and your healing, where you're going to be on that spectrum of duality, and that could change in every now moment, right? You could hit something and have a negative sort of fear reaction to it, or you could have a healing. It's like it changes all the time.
Well, that brings me to our next subject that I was going to mention. It's actually, thank you, Theo, for that, because it's perfect for what I was going to talk about. I had another little lesson with my team, and they wanted me to go through a day and divide up the things that really got me, that stopped me in my tracks. Like, damn it, I need to learn this, or damn it, here's the fear. And they divided it. A lot of tests. And they divided it up into earth stuff versus soul stuff. So any event that you have, any interaction you have, any encounter you have, there's a part of you that's learning from that, right? There's a growth aspect associated with any encounter. And although we're learning on all of the levels, right? Your physical self is learning, your mental self is learning, the logical part, the emotional self is learning. We're focusing generally at this point in our evolution on one of those levels while we're reacting to something. And so, for instance, I went through a day and I kept getting a lot of insurance things. Now, you and I were going to talk about insurance. I don't even know if we have time to do it today, but a lot of like insurance.
Well, don't leave people with that.
Now we're gonna Well,
that
we'll
great insurance cliffhanger. And of course, they're gonna come back for that.
But insurance bothers. Like, oh, I have to fill out this form and all that stuff. And all I got in the head was, is that earth stuff or is that soul stuff? Like, what is really bothering you about the fact that you have to fill out a form? And I'm like, that's so earth stuff. That's so stupid. Like, I fill out forms all the time. I can have a different attitude, fill out the form, get it done, and the issue is resolved, basically, right? Now, the soul stuff, when you get to that, that's generally where you're challenged, I'm using that in quotes right now, on like kindness, judgment, patience, things like that, right? So the earth part of it could be the trigger for you to be learning on a higher level about what that lesson is. So we're going to have time to talk about insurance. I know we are, but if you want to go through a day and recognize when something is coming to you that you're just like, like that, or ugh, or fuck, or whatever you're going to say that just stops you in your track. Like, I was doing so well and then this came along. Ask yourself, is it earth stuff? Because most earth stuff you just laugh at, a couple weeks later. You're like, oh, that was so no big deal. That was not a big deal at all. So if it's no big deal at all in 3 weeks, it can be no big deal at all right now, right? And what that allows you to do is it allows you to go from the earth stuff to the soul stuff and review that encounter, that incident, that situation from a higher level. Because when you do, instead of focusing on the annoying part of the earth aspect of it, you're actually going to the real lesson where you are going to learn from it and not have to repeat those incidents over and over again. Whew! I used no punctuation there. I'm sorry. But that's what I have to say about earth stuff versus soul stuff.
Yeah, but the gist is we're always learning on every single level.
Oh, so I could have said that in one sentence like Miranda did.
And in every one of these experiences, you can sort of stop yourself and be like, well, what am I actually trying to get out of this? Yeah.
2 sentences, she said the whole thing.
Well, to be fair, I think yours was also 1 sentence. So.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to talk about insurance, and the reason I wanted to bring it up, besides it being earth stuff, was that I have many friends in the spiritual community who don't believe in using insurance. And the reason that most of us use insurance is because we're insuring against something bad happening to us.
Right.
Right? So by purchasing the insurance, by putting your name on it, you're saying, I expect something bad to happen to me.
Right. Makes sense.
Right? And I don't ever want to tell anybody to go out and cancel their insurance because it completely depends on your belief systems with respect to that. But I have come around in a big circle reviewing all the insurance I have in my life. And one of the things I noticed was my life insurance that I got. I got that like 20 something years ago, back when I was 30 and I was so healthy I didn't even need a checkup and blah, 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 blah. And then I just turned 55 and I just decided to review some insurance, and I realized that they had cut my life insurance in half when I hit 55. Like, oh,
wow.
you're no longer worth as much as you were now. Now you're worth half.
Your life is worth half?
And they probably sent me a letter or something that I ignored. It doesn't matter, but I mean, at the same price that I was paying, it's just now I'm worth half of the amount. Now, the whole life insurance thing itself is crazy because I mean, my bills are paid. If I die, there's not going to be any debt for anybody to pay. They're going to get my savings and everything's hunky dory. So it just brings us back around again to review all of those things that we took for granted. We expected were a part of life that really don't need to be part of a new earth life, right? There's probably going to be some hitman coming from insurance companies knocking on my door. You stop talking that way.
Well, I mean, recently I've had to delve into the wonderful world of home insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking, we kind of had a conversation about this, which was more like me thinking out loud to you. But the way I see it, or I saw this house, because I have to get this crazy expensive insurance to begin with, because I'm doing a renovation and I won't be living there for a month, and the insurance company won't let me have it for a month because they have to make enough money to like make it worth being insuring them. But I don't really have a choice in the matter because it's required by, the mortgage company. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have any fear around this. And this is the same as like what happened with my my offer on the house being approved. I don't have any fear around this, but I don't own the house. I own a teeny bit of
one
the house.
corner.
Yeah, right? I maybe
the powder room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the mortgage company, the lender owns the house, really, and the lender has fear, right? It's a company, but the people there and the structure the consciousness that is a lending company and the people who work there still holds fear. And so the insurance isn't for me. It's not related to my fear. It's related to, that fear-based consciousness that still exists on the earth plane. So while I'm still here, I'm still living in it, like, got to play by the rules a little bit. And of course, if you have to have car insurance, that's a legal matter, and that protects other people in your world that could need it, could need you to have that car insurance to like help them in some situation. We still, while we personally don't necessarily hold that fear, we also have to think about, well, what is this actually protecting? Is it protecting other people, or following the rules that I agreed to follow by being in this, dense environment? So, I mean, if it's an insurance that you don't actually feel that you need, like, maybe get the high deductible. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the car insurance, I actually, for the first time in my life, went through like all the stuff that it really pays for. All the little liability, collision, and all that stuff.
It makes your eyes roll back in your head reading it.
Well, they did, but I realized that I'm like, I want the highest payouts to go to someone if they get hurt, right? My car, I love her. She's great. If she got hurt, I would be sad. But if a person got hurt, the first thing on my mind would be, I would want to help pay their bills.
Absolutely.
I would want that for them. And so I chose my numbers based on that instead of how much is my insurance payment going to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it was a completely different viewpoint that I went about choosing the insurance that I did have to keep. Like, for instance, the car insurance. And I did shop around like they say you're supposed to, right? Because I come from a military family, I use USAA, which is really hard to beat. It's a military company. I'm going to check. I'm going to go to Geico and the lizard guy. Is that the Geico people?
Yeah.
The reptilians. Yeah. Anyway, in disguise. So I got quotes and everything, and I realized that where I was way cheaper than the competition. And not a big deal spiritually, but what it was revisiting an energy that I had forgotten about for a long time. Because usually, you get your insurance policy and you don't change it ever, right? Unless you get a new car or something like that.
Absolutely.
You don't review it at all. So revisiting that energy and making new choices, it released a lot of blockages that
awesome.
I didn't even know I had. And I say 15% because I made some changes in, the coverage in a good way.
Wow. So we got our first commercial.
We got our first commercial.
What was I just going to say? Oh, and in the end, it's really all about intention. So if you're using having fear or not having fear to make your decisions, there's still fear involved. If you're using compassion for another person to make your decisions, then there's compassion involved, right? Like you get to choose what your intention is and what's behind it.
She's so damn sunny. Even when you're tired, you're sunny. All right. Well, we are almost done, but I did promise to revisit the question I asked in the last podcast about the order in which you're supposed to take care of your teeth. So there were 3 options. There's actually 4, but I gave 3 in the last podcast. There's flossing, there's brushing, and then there's the water pick. So I asked you, Miranda, what do you think the correct order is for taking care of your teeth?
Okay, do you want me to answer?
Mm-hmm.
You should floss and then brush and then water pick.
Very good. Did you Google that? Did you Google it?
No, I just know what it is.
Oh.
Also, my hygienist, who I love, is obsessed with the water pick.
Oh, I'm obsessed with my water pick too.
So you can use, what she says is use the water pick all the time.
Yeah, like after every meal you're supposed to. You are correct. You do start with flossing, which to me is disgusting. Like I can't even imagine starting with flossing. I have to brush first and rinse out my mouth and then I floss. So I have it backwards
You
already.
got to get it loose with the floss and then...
Yeah, with the water pick. Anyway, I've changed my ways. I'm changing my ways. I've learned. But the 4th one is mouthwash, which I have a fantastic coconut mouthwash that I use afterwards. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel minty fresh. So all of those commercials that you've seen or the movies where people wake up and they embrace each other.
They make out.
Right, like... It's not real life. That's not my reality or hasn't been in my past.
It is now because you got the mouthwash.
It is now. But, okay.
She's ready for you, new man.
All right. Well, we are good for tonight. I have no idea who's winning the elections. We're probably not going to know for another week or so. And thank you all for watching. It was fun. It's crazy. Get some sleep if you need it. And anything you want to say, Miranda?
I do. And I got this a while ago from the team about this election. And this is before we even knew who was actually going to be in it. It has never mattered less who wins. Neither of them will be able to handle the changes that are coming. And that and that is exactly what we need to see. Because we're rethinking what leaders are and what a president is and what the government is. So whoever wins, whatever happens, it's exactly what's supposed to happen. And we're always moving forward and upward and better. So
see, now this is what I was told. We were going to record this for a later time. There's Miranda, and I totally agree with you that we are going to redefine what a leader is. And it's going to be a whole lot more sovereignty than it has ever been.
It's you. You're the leader.
Yeah, it's basically you. Kind of starts with you, and then it moves outward.
Look at all the people that are voting that never voted before, that are taking their power.
With cold fingers.
With cold fingers. I voted every year, primary, regular, for almost 20 years now, so... I knew my power for a long time.
You
But
have a lot of power, and we love you, Miranda. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Theo. I'm glad you loved this episode. It was a lot of fun. And until next time, cheers.
cheers.